Does your child know the true cost of using a credit card? Hi, I'm Emily, the marketing director for Off the Payroll and the grateful daughter of a finance-savvy banking professional who taught me these lessons before I left for college. Together, my mom and I have turned our conversations into an online self-guided course designed to bring the fundamentals of personal finance to high school seniors. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can start to have conversations with your own students before they leave the nest. So watch this video together because today's topic is going to be all about credit cards. If you're preparing to send your high school graduate off into the real world, you may be starting to think about how they're going to manage their own expenses. And using a credit card can be really helpful in tracking expenses or even keeping track of a budget. It's also very important to establish credit early in your adult life because that's really important in determining your credit score. How long you've had your credit card, how much you use your credit, and how often you make timely payments will all result in a better credit score. And as we already know as adults, a good credit score leads to more favorable loan terms when you're buying a car or something bigger like a house. It can even affect your ability to rent an apartment. But don't worry, because using a credit card can be very simple if you follow these two rules. Don't charge more than you can pay off in a month, and make your payments on time. Case closed. But in practice, for most of us, that's not what happens, and you're often left with a balance each month that you can't pay in full. In fact, according to US News, 46% of college graduates have some kind of credit card debt. And in an economy of rising prices, like we're in now, reliance on credit cards will increase. So it's vital to understand how credit cards work before you go off on your own. So that's why we're going to cover 3 concepts about credit cards that every high school senior should know before they leave the nest. And at the end of this video, we'll have a helpful exercise that you can work through together, plus a free workbook you can download to do the exercise. Concept number 1, the effects of interest rates. As you already know as parents, credit cards aren't free. Sure, they might not have an annual fee, but when you can't pay off the balance each month, you're charged interest on that amount. My mom always says that credit cards are like no questions asked loans that have tremendous buying power with virtually no restrictions on what you can buy. And this is an awesome responsibility for students just starting out. So it's important for everyone to understand what each purchase actually costs. Interest rates that credit card issuers can charge will vary on a number of different things, like your credit history, how good of a credit risk you are, and the type of card, like whether or not it offers any type of rewards. And the interest rate is variable, meaning it can change at any time. And this is extremely important today as we see prime rates continuing to climb. As prime goes up, so do other interest rates that are tied to it, like for credit cards. Today, interest rates on credit cards can vary from 15 to 23%. This can really add to the amount that something costs when you charge it, but you don't pay it off in the same month. So if you charge something to your credit card that has an interest rate in that range, how much is actually due each month? That brings us to concept number 2, the effects of minimum payments. I think sometimes adults can take this concept for granted because you're probably more used to paying credit card bills by now. But you'd be surprised at the number of students who ask what exactly this means. After all, minimum payment does sound like that's the only thing that you have to pay each month. But a lot of our students didn't realize that you can actually make a larger payment than the minimum payment that's due. A lot thought that as long as they made the minimum payment, they were doing great. And I don't blame them. But by only making the minimum payment due, more interest is charged and the longer it'll take to pay off. The minimum payment is actually calculated based on a small percentage of your outstanding balance, usually 1 to 2%. So by only making the minimum payment due, more interest is charged and it'll take you longer to actually pay off. In fact, the credit card bill should tell you right there on the front how long it'll take to pay off, as well as how much interest you'll pay if you just make the minimum payment due. And depending on your balance, this could be years. And that's why it's important to be organized and diligent about paying your credit card bill off in full and on time each month. Not only will this improve your credit score, but it will also prevent any extra fees like late fees. And that brings us to concept number 3, the effects of late payments. For the most part, late fees are completely avoidable and can really rack up if you don't pay your credit card bills on time. Payments should actually be made before the due date to allow for that payment to be processed, even if it's paid directly on their website. The credit card issuer will charge a late fee ranging from $15 to $35. And if you're late more than once or twice, your interest rate can actually increase. By the way, making a payment that's less than the minimum payment actually constitutes a late fee too. But now it's your turn to put these concepts into practice together. We're going to go through an example together that will show you the effects of interest rates, late payments, and only paying the minimum payment due. So first, think of something expensive together that you wanted to buy. Maybe it's a smartwatch, a gaming system, a piece of jewelry, or even some new clothes. Whatever you choose to buy, pause this video now and look up the price together, making sure you include any sales tax that's charged as well. Okay, great. Now once you've got that number, keep that in mind for the rest of this exercise. For me, I'm going to choose the new model of the smartwatch that I really want, and that's going to cost me $389.99 to buy. Now assume you have an 18% interest and a 2% minimum payment. It's a very attractive offer if you consider that I could get this very expensive watch now and only pay that much per month. But now we know that that's not really the full story. So if we understand the effects of compounding interest, or the fact that interest will continue to be charged on the entire outstanding balance as long as we don't pay it off, and we choose to only make the minimum payments due on the item that we're choosing to purchase, then we can calculate that it'll actually take me until March 2030 to pay off the watch. And adding up all of the interest, the watch will actually cost me $669.99. The main goal here is not to necessarily perform math calculations. There are a bunch of credit card interest calculators online, but to show how interest rates can actually affect the overall cost of a credit card purchase. We usually find that real examples like these are the best ways to make these types of topics hit home. Because if you use a credit card to make a lot of purchases, especially if you're just starting out, you can easily lose track of how quickly things add up. So knowing how to use a credit card responsibly will help you keep these purchases to a manageable amount that you'll actually be able to pay off. I hope you found this video useful and you learned something new. If you want to download our workbook that covers 4 more personal finance topics that you can talk through together, click the link below to download it now. Or if your student is ready to take their future into their own hands, you can enroll in our self-guided online course in the Fundamentals of Personal Finance at offthepayroll.org. It covers credit cards and many other essential topics on financial literacy. Thanks for listening, and make sure to follow us for more info and helpful guides for high school seniors to improve their financial literacy. Hopefully with our help, we can work together to get our students off their parents' payroll and ready to venture out on their own.